Your daddy is stuck with you because nobody else would take you." Miss Hale's voice was a whisper pressed against a 7-year-old girl's ear. "That arm, that limp, you think people don't see it? They do, and they feel sorry for him." She took Chloe's drawing and dropped it in the trash without looking at it. "You don't say a word, not to anyone, especially not to him." 40 miles away, a police officer's phone lit up on the passenger seat. His German Shepherd was already standing. If this story moves you, subscribe to our channel and drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. Now stay with me. Every word of this matters. The alarm went off at 5:42 in the morning, and Nathan Cole was already awake. He had been awake for most of the night, lying on his back in the dark, listening to the house. Not for intruders, not for anything a police officer was trained to listen for. He was listening for his daughter. Chloe's room was at the end of the hall. For most of her 7 years, that room had been loud with imagination. She narrated her drawings out loud. She sang made-up songs to Rex while she colored. She talked to herself in the low, serious voice of someone conducting extremely important business. 2 years ago, Nathan used to stand outside her door sometimes just to hear it, just to carry that sound with him into a shift that might go sideways. 10 months ago, the room went quiet. That was when Dana left. No argument, no warning that Nathan could point to. Just a folded note on the kitchen counter, and an absence that filled every room of the house by noon. The note said 4 sentences. The last one was, "I am not strong enough for this life." Nathan had read it 6 times before he understood she meant all of it. The job, the years, Chloe. He folded the note, put it in the kitchen drawer, and never opened the drawer again. Rex had been the one to find Chloe that morning, sitting on the floor of her closet, with her knees against her chest and her good hand pressed flat against her left arm, the one with the brace, the one she had learned to move through the world with like it was just part of her. Rex had curled around her in the closet, and Nathan had sat outside the door on the hallway floor and talked to his daughter through the wood until she came out. They did not talk about Dana after that, not directly. Chloe asked once, about 3 weeks in, whether her mother had left because of the arm. Nathan had told her no. He had told her the truth, which was that some people are not able to stay, and it has nothing to do with the people they leave. Chloe had listened very carefully, the way she did when she was deciding whether to believe something. Then she had gone back to drawing. The drawings had changed, though. He noticed it slowly. Less color. Figures standing apart from each other. Lots of corners. Then, 3 weeks ago, Chloe had been moved to Ms. Hale's 3rd grade class, and the drawings disappeared entirely. Nathan sat up in bed. Rex was already at the foot of it, watching him with those amber eyes that had never once looked at Nathan without full attention. "Morning, boy." Rex did not wag his tail. He stood up, turned toward the hallway, and looked back. That was the thing about working with a trained German Shepherd for 4 years. You stopped being able to ignore what the dog was trying to tell you. Nathan got dressed. Chloe was sitting on the edge of her bed when he pushed her door open, already in her school uniform, her brace fastened correctly, her backpack on the floor beside her feet. She was not doing anything, just sitting, hands in her lap, staring at the window. "Hey, Turtle," he kept his voice soft. "You're up early." She looked at him. Something moved behind her eyes, and then went still again, the way water moves when you throw something in and then goes flat. "Bad dreams?" She shook her head. "You eat anything yet?" She shook her head again. Nathan sat down beside her on the bed. The mattress dipped. Rex came in behind him and positioned himself in front of Chloe, looking up at her from the floor. The dog pressed his nose against her knee once, then held still. Chloe put her right hand into his fur. "Chloe," Nathan kept his voice level, "I need you to tell me something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Is everything okay at school?" The hand in Rex's fur tightened. "Yeah." "Yeah?" "Yes." "Do you like your class?" The pause was 1 second too long. "It's fine." "Do you like your teacher?" Chloe did not answer. Nathan turned to look at her. She was staring at the floor now, her jaw set in the expression she had inherited directly from him, the one that meant she was holding something down with both hands. "Chloe, you can tell me anything. You know that." "I know." "Is someone saying something to you? At school? Is someone—" "I have to eat breakfast." She stood up. "You said we have to leave by 7. He watched her walk out of the room. Her left leg dragged slightly on the carpet, the way it always did in the mornings before it loosened up. She had never once complained about it. Not once in 7 years. That was the part that got him every time. Nathan sat on her bed for a moment longer. Rex looked at the door, then at Nathan, then at the door again. "I know," Nathan said quietly. "I see it too." He had been a police officer for 3 years. Before the badge, he had studied people, read rooms, understood the specific silence of someone who wanted to speak and had decided not to. He had sat across from grown adults in interrogation rooms and recognized the exact weight of words being held back. He was looking at that weight right now on a 7-year-old girl's face, and he had absolutely no idea what to do with it. In the kitchen, he made eggs and toast. Chloe sat at the table and moved the food around the plate without eating much of it. She was not sulking. She was not being difficult. She was just somewhere else, behind her own eyes, in a room he could not find the door to. "Can I ask you something?" Nathan set down his coffee. She looked up. "Who's the nicest kid in your class?" She blinked. It was not the question she had been prepared for. Maybe Sophie? She shared her colored pencils with me." "That's good. Is Sophie friends with you?" "Kind of." A small pause. "She doesn't talk to me when Miss Hale is watching." The sentence landed on the table between them like a stone. Nathan kept his face still. "Why not?" Chloe picked up a piece of toast, put it back down. "I don't know. She just doesn't." He let it sit. Pushing would close the door completely. He knew that. He waited. Chloe looked up at him from under her lashes. "Daddy, do you think I'm hard to be around?" The question hit him somewhere between his chest and his throat. "No," he said. "Why would you ask that?" She shrugged with one shoulder, the right one. She rarely shrugged with the left. "Just wondering." He watched her carry her plate to the sink. He watched Rex follow her across the kitchen and press against her left side, the way the dog had started doing in the past 3 weeks. Always on the left, always close. Nathan thought about calling the school right then, thought about driving over, thought about every protocol he knew for situations involving a child and a school and a set of signs that had no proof attached to them. Not yet. Instead, he went to the garage and opened a box he had ordered 4 days ago. It was small, orange, shaped like a compass, the kind you might clip to a zipper pull on a child's backpack. Inside was a paired transmitter that synced silently to a secure app on his phone. He had filed the registration paperwork with the school district office at the start of the year, listing it as a medical alert device. He had done it the week Chloe started kindergarten, when the world still felt manageable, when the worst thing he imagined was a fall on the playground. He had never needed it before. He brought it to the kitchen and held it out to her. "What is it?" she asked. "A tracker, so I can always find you." He fastened it to the zipper pull on her backpack. If anything happens, anything at all, you hold this button. He showed her the small orange button on the side. You hold it for 3 seconds. That's all. And I hear everything. Chloe looked at it. Everything? Everything within 20 feet of you. She touched the button with her fingertip. She did not press it. She just traced its shape, the way she traced the edges of things she was still deciding about. Okay, she said finally. Rex whined at the front door. It was time to go. Nathan carried her backpack to the car. He buckled her in. He drove the 12 minutes to Maplewood Elementary through the last of the winter gray, Rex in the back seat with his nose against the window, watching the streets move past with the focused attention he gave to everything. At the drop-off loop, Chloe got out without him asking. She pulled her backpack onto both shoulders. She turned to look at him through the car window. He raised his hand. She raised hers back. Then she turned and walked toward the front doors, her left leg moving in its familiar rhythm, her right hand holding the strap of her backpack, and on the zipper pull, barely visible from 30 feet, a small orange compass catching the gray morning light. She did not look back again. Nathan did not pull away from the curb immediately. He sat there, watching the doors close behind her, his hands on the steering wheel, his jaw tight. Rex moved to the edge of the back seat and put his nose against the metal divider between them. Not whining, just close. 3 days later, Nathan found the drawing. He almost missed it. It was at the very bottom of her backpack, folded twice and pushed beneath the false flap in the lining that Chloe had created herself by pressing the fabric flat and tucking things underneath it. He had not known she did that. He had not known she had anywhere she was hiding things from him. He unfolded the paper. It was a girl. Brown hair, a brace on her left arm. She was standing in a corner with her back to the room. Above her, in Chloe's careful, deliberate handwriting, broken, useless, crybaby whose mommy didn't want her. And standing over the girl was a tall figure, silver-streaked hair, reading glasses, a red pen in one hand. Nathan read it once, twice. He set it on the kitchen counter and stood very still for a long time. Rex sat at his feet and did not move. Nathan picked up his phone and called the school. He got transferred 3 times before Principal Douglas Marsh picked up, his voice carrying the carefully managed warmth of a man who dealt with concerned parents professionally and efficiently. "Officer Cole, what can I do for you this morning?" "I need to talk to you about Ms. Hale." A half-second pause, almost invisible. "Of course. Patricia is one of our most distinguished educators. Is there something specific?" My daughter drew a picture, a figure with silver hair and reading glasses, standing over a child in a corner, with the words, "broken and useless," written above the child's head. Nathan's voice was very quiet. "I'd like to know what you're going to do about that." This pause was longer. "Officer Cole, children with Chloe's particular challenges sometimes have difficulty adjusting to structured classroom environments. Their perception of interactions can sometimes be, 'Stop.'" Nathan said it flat and clean. "I am asking you one time. Has anyone filed a complaint against Patricia Hale before?" Silence. "Mr. Marsh, has anyone filed a complaint?" There have been some isolated concerns over the years, but each one was reviewed, and how many? I'm not comfortable sharing that information without going through proper how many. The silence that followed was its own answer. Nathan hung up. He stood in his kitchen with the drawing in his hand and looked at the compass app on his phone. The orange light was steady, inactive. He looked at the clock. Chloe was still at school for 4 more hours. He looked at Rex. 2 more days, he said. Not because he believed it, because he needed to say something that wasn't what he was actually thinking. Rex looked at the front door. Nathan looked at the drawing one more time. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his uniform breast pocket, against his chest, where he would feel it for the rest of the shift. He left for work. He checked the app 11 times before noon. The call came in at 11:17 in the morning. Nathan was running a routine traffic stop on Route 9, one hand on the driver's window, when his phone vibrated in his breast pocket. Not a call. Not a text. The app. The orange light was blinking. He handed the license back without looking at it. "You're free to go." He was already walking back to the cruiser. Rex was standing in the back seat. Nathan got in, closed the door, and opened the app. The audio feed was live. Background noise at first. Chair legs scraping. The muffled shuffle of children moving through a hallway. Then a door closing. Then silence. Then Miss Hale's voice. "Chloe, stay at your desk." Nathan stopped breathing. He could hear the classroom emptying. Footsteps moving toward the door. Voices fading. The particular sound of children being released into a hallway, like pressure escaping a sealed room. Then, nothing. Just the low hum of a building mid-morning, and the sound of 2 people left in a room that was suddenly very small. Hale's voice changed. Not loud, not sharp. Worse than that. It went quiet and deliberate. The kind of voice that knows it won't be heard. The kind of voice that has done this before and learned exactly how far it needs to carry. "Do you know what I see when I look at you?" No answer from Chloe. "I see a child whose own mother looked at her and made a decision. Can you blame her? That arm, that limp. Some people are just not built to be loved easily." Nathan's hand went white on the phone. A sound from Chloe. Small. The sound of someone swallowing something that should have been a word. "You don't cry in my classroom," Hale said. "You sit up straight and you stop looking at me like I've said something wrong. Because I haven't. I'm preparing you. No one else is going to tell you these things." Rex pushed his nose through the divider and pressed it against Nathan's shoulder. Nathan did not move. He was listening with everything he had. "And you do not," Hale said, "open that quiet little mouth of yours to anyone. Not your teacher friends, not the school counselor, especially not your father. Because if you do, I will make sure everyone in this building knows exactly what kind of child you really are. The kind that makes things up. The kind that can't handle a normal classroom. The kind that needs to be somewhere else." Silence. "Do you understand me?" Nothing from Chloe. "I asked you a question." A whisper, barely audible through the feed. "Yes." "Yes, what?" A pause so long, Nathan felt it in his chest like a held breath. "Yes, Miss Hale." Nathan was already on the radio. "This is Unit 12, Officer Cole. I need immediate backup at Maplewood Elementary, 400 Birch Street. Possible child abuse situation. Active. Room 118. No sirens until the parking lot. Repeat, no sirens until you're in the lot." The dispatcher came back in 4 seconds. "Copy, Unit 12. Units 7 and 15 responding. ETA 7 minutes. He did not wait for the confirmation to finish. He pulled onto Route 9 and drove. His partner, Darnell Webb's voice, came across the radio 30 seconds later. "Nate, talk to me." "It's Chloe's teacher. I have audio." A beat. "I'm 2 minutes behind you." Nathan drove fast and clean, the way he had been trained, cutting through intersections with his lights going, but no siren. The way you approach something fragile, you don't want to startle. His mind was breaking the situation into pieces, the way it always did when things went bad. Entry point. Room layout. Civilian count. His daughter in the corner of a classroom with a woman who had just told her she was not built to be loved. He pulled the volume on his phone up and kept the feed running. More silence from room 118. Then the sound of a chair. Footsteps. Hale walking somewhere. A drawer opening. Then Hale's voice again, closer now, almost casual. You know what your problem is? You want people to feel sorry for you. That arm. You think it makes you special. A sound Nathan could not immediately identify. A sharp crack. Not glass, not wood. Then his daughter's voice, strangled and high. Daddy. One word. She had not meant to say it. It came out of her the way things come out of people when all the holding back suddenly costs more than they have. But she said it. And on Nathan's app screen, the orange light turned solid. She had pressed the button. Nathan pushed the cruiser harder. He could see the edge of the school property, the trees, the brick fence. He killed the lights 2 blocks out and came in quiet, rolling through the parking lot and cutting the engine in the same motion. He was out before it fully stopped. Rex hit the pavement beside him. They moved together the way they had moved through 100 situations that had trained them for exactly this, except that none of those situations had been this. None of those situations had had Chloe's voice in the audio feed, going quiet in a room at the end of an east hallway, while Nathan was still 50 yards from the front door. The secretary buzzed him through on reflex. Uniform, badge, expression that left no room for procedure. He did not stop at the desk. He had studied the school's floor plan the night he ordered the compass. He knew exactly where room 118 was. East hallway. Last door. Halfway down the hall, a teacher stepped out of a classroom and started to say something. Nathan looked at her. She stepped back. Rex stopped 6 feet from the door to room 118 and sat. That was the sign. Nathan had learned it in their second month working together. Rex sat when he was certain. Not when he suspected. When he was certain. Nathan knocked. Miss Hale, this is Officer Cole. Open the door. A pause. 4 seconds. He counted. Then her voice came through the wood, smooth and warm and entirely composed. Officer, I'm in a session with a student. If you could just wait. Open the door or I open it. Another pause, shorter this time. The lock clicked. She opened the door and stood in it, silver hair perfect, reading glasses on the chain around her neck, a red marking pen in her right hand. She looked at Nathan's face. She looked at Rex. She arranged her expression into something that was designed to look like pleasant confusion. The face of a woman who cannot imagine what this is about, but is absolutely willing to help. Officer Cole, what a surprise. Chloe and I were just finishing up a quick... Nathan looked past her. Chloe was in the far corner. Her back was against the wall. Her left arm was held tight against her chest. The brace twisted outward at the angle it went when someone grabbed it without caring what they grabbed. Her right cheek was red. Not bruised yet, but red in the specific way skin goes red in the minutes after impact. She was staring at the orange compass on her backpack zipper. The light was still solid. Rex did not wait. The shepherd moved past Hale through the open door, crossed the room in 4 strides, and sat directly in front of Chloe, with his body turned outward and his amber eyes fixed on the teacher. His mouth was closed. His growl was not. It came from somewhere low in his chest, steady and constant, like a current. Chloe's right hand found his fur without her even looking down. Nathan stepped inside. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. He had learned years ago that the quieter he spoke in a situation like this, the louder it landed. Ms. Patricia Hale, you are being placed under investigation for child abuse. Step away from the students. Hale stared at him for one full second. Then something shifted in her expression. The confusion dropped away. What replaced it was not panic. It was calculation. The face of a woman who had been in difficult rooms before and had always walked back out. She smiled. It was the wrong kind of smile. Slow. Certain. The smile of someone who believes they are already 3 moves ahead. "Officer Cole," she said softly, "you have absolutely no idea what you've just done to your career." Webb's boots hit the hallway outside. 2 more officers were 30 seconds behind him. Nathan heard the radio crackle, heard the building starting to move, heard the specific controlled chaos of a school responding to something it did not have a protocol for. He heard all of it. But what he was looking at was his daughter, 7 years old, her left arm held against her chest, her right hand buried in Rex's fur, her dark eyes finding him across the room with an expression that broke something open in him he was not sure he could close again. She had pressed the button. She had been in that room, being told she was unlovable and not built for the world, and she had pressed the button anyway. He walked toward her. Webb cuffed Hale with one hand on her elbow and one on her wrist, and she did not stop talking the entire time. "This is a violation. This is an illegal search and seizure. I want my attorney. I have rights in this building. I have 24 years of service in this district, and you are making the single biggest mistake of your professional life." Her voice stayed controlled, even with her hands behind her back, even with Rex still positioned in front of Chloe, even with 3 officers filling a classroom that had been empty and silent 30 minutes ago. She was not panicking. That was the part that stayed with Nathan. She was not panicking at all. Nathan was not looking at her. He was looking at Chloe. He crossed the room and knelt in front of his daughter, the way you kneel in front of someone you are not sure how to touch without breaking. Chloe was still pressed against the wall, her right hand still buried in Rex's fur, her left arm still held tight against her chest. Her cheek was red, her eyes were dry, which was somehow worse than crying. "I'm here," Nathan said. "Just that. Nothing else." Chloe looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at the orange compass on her backpack zipper. "It worked," she whispered. "It worked," he said. She let go of Rex and reached for Nathan, and he caught her before she fully moved, pulling her in, her face against his uniform, her small body rigid for 1 second, and then not rigid at all. Rex pressed against both of them from the side. Behind them, Nathan could hear Webb reading Hale her rights in the flat, practiced voice of a man who had done it many times and meant it every single one. "You'll regret this," Hale's voice carried across the room, aimed at Nathan's back. "That recording is inadmissible. Any attorney in this state will have it thrown out in 48 hours. And when they do, I will make sure both of you are finished." Nathan did not turn around. "Get her out of here," he said to Webb. "With pleasure," Webb said. The door closed behind them and the room went quiet. Chloe pulled back just far enough to look at Nathan's face. Her eyes moved across it the way they did when she was reading something important, checking for the thing underneath the thing. "Are you mad?" she asked. "Not at you, not even a little bit." "She said you'd be. She said you'd think I was making it up." Nathan held her face in both hands. "Chloe, look at me. I have never believed anything more in my entire life than I believe you right now." Her jaw tightened the way his did. The expression that meant she was deciding whether to let something in. She let it in. They walked out of Maplewood Elementary together, Nathan carrying her backpack, Rex leading the way, and the hallway full of teachers standing in their doorways, watching in silence. None of them said anything. Nathan noticed that too. He noticed the ones who looked away. He got Chloe into the cruiser and sat with her in the back seat for 6 minutes before he trusted himself to drive. Rex turned in a slow circle and settled against her left side. She leaned into the dog and closed her eyes. Nathan stared at the school building through the windshield. 24 years. How many children in 24 years? He started the engine. The station was controlled chaos when he arrived. Webb had Hale processed within the hour, and her attorney, a man named Stephen Calloway, who wore a suit that cost more than a month of Nathan's salary, arrived 40 minutes after that. Nathan watched Calloway through the glass of the observation room and recognized the particular posture of a man who was already planning his counter-narrative. Straight back, relaxed shoulders, the posture of someone who believed the system worked in his direction. DA Margaret Voss pulled Nathan into her office at 2 in the afternoon. She was small, precise, with sharp eyes that moved fast and missed nothing. She set a legal pad on her desk and did not sit down. "The audio is strong," she said. "The content is damning. But we have a problem." Nathan waited. Calloway is going to argue the device was unauthorized. No judicial warrant, no school notification of an active recording device on a child. Your registration listed it as a medical alert instrument, which technically covers passive signaling, but not sustained audio capture. She looked at him. "He will file a motion to suppress before we see a courtroom." "She told my daughter she was unlovable. I have it on tape." "I know what you have. I'm telling you what he's going to do with it." Voss sat down. "We need corroboration. Other victims, other witnesses. Something that puts a pattern on record that makes suppressing one piece of audio look like exactly what it would be." She paused. "Has anyone else come forward?" "Not yet." "Then that's what we need. Because right now, her attorney is building a story. And the story is that you are a grieving young officer with an emotionally fragile daughter and a personal vendetta against a decorated teacher. And in this town, with her 24 years of awards on the wall, that story is going to find an audience." Nathan drove home with Chloe asleep in the back seat and Rex watching the dark road move past outside the window. He carried her inside and put her to bed without waking her. He stood in her doorway for a moment, listening to her breathe. Then he went back to the kitchen and sat down at the table with his phone and the sick, hollow certainty that Voss was right. Hale made bail the next morning, $50,000, posted by 9 a.m. Judge Eleanor Pask cited 24 years of community ties, no prior criminal record, no flight risk, no ankle monitor. Nathan got the call from Webb while he was making Chloe's breakfast, and he had to set the pan down and stand at the counter for 30 seconds before he could pick it up again. "She's out?" His voice came out even. He was proud of that. "An hour ago. Calloway moved fast." Webb paused. "Nate, she's not going to come near Chloe. If she does, she's looking at additional charges on top of everything else." "She won't come near Chloe herself," Nathan said. He checked the window locks that night. All of them. He reset the security cameras he had installed after Dana left and tested each one. He moved his service weapon from the lockbox in the closet to the safe beside his bed. Combination memorized. Rex slept across Chloe's doorway. Chloe did not know Hale was out. Nathan intended to keep it that way for as long as he could. He almost managed 48 hours. Channel 4 ran the segment on a Wednesday morning. Nathan was at the station when Webb came into the break room and told him to turn on the television, and the expression on Webb's face told him everything before the screen did. Hale stood on the courthouse steps in a charcoal blazer with a tissue folded in her left hand and her attorney beside her like a wall. The camera loved her. She had known it would. She looked exactly like what she wanted people to see. A gentle woman in her late 50s, silver-haired, dignified, devastated. "I have given everything I have to the children of this community," she said, her voice carrying just enough tremor to be moving without being theatrical. "And now, a young officer, a man whose own family is falling apart, whose own daughter has been struggling with serious emotional difficulties since her mother left, has decided to use his badge to destroy me." Nathan's hands were flat on the table. "The truth is that Chloe Cole is a troubled little girl. I tried to help her. I gave her extra attention, extra patience, extra time. And this is the result." A pause. A slow breath. "I believe in justice, and I believe when all the facts come to light, I will be fully exonerated." Webb stepped in front of the television. "Don't. She just called my daughter mentally ill on the news. I know what she did, and if you go out there right now, you hand her exactly what she wants." Webb's voice was steady and firm, the voice of a man who was not going to move. "She needs you angry and visible. Don't be either one. Not today." Nathan looked at the screen over Webb's shoulder. Hale was walking away from the microphones, flanked by Calloway, her posture straight, her chin level, the picture of wronged dignity. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He looked at the screen. "You should have taken the settlement offer. Now it's too late." He showed it to Webb without a word. Webb photographed it. "Burner, but we log it anyway." The lawsuit arrived the following morning. Calloway had filed. Unlawful entry, excessive force, defamation, emotional trauma inflicted on minors by a uniformed officer and his animal. The department's legal team called Nathan within the hour. Standard pressure tactic, they said. Don't engage with media. Nathan was still reading the filing when his personal phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. The girl should learn to keep her mouth shut, just like her mother did. He was out of his chair before he fully decided to move. He drove home in 11 minutes. He pulled up to the house and something stopped him before he got out. The front door was closed, locked. Cameras showed nothing on the porch. Rex, riding in the back, was not reacting. No alert, no tension. But there was something on the porch mat that had not been there that morning. A drawing. Child-sized paper. Folded once. Nathan bagged it before he touched it fully. He opened it with gloved hands in the kitchen. A girl with a brace on her left arm, standing alone. Above her, in red marker, careful and deliberate, and nothing like a child's handwriting at all. Next time, there is no button to press. Nathan stood in his kitchen holding a piece of paper that someone had walked up to his front door and left for his daughter to find. And for the first time since this began, the cold that moved through him was not rage. It was fear. He called Voss. Someone was at my house. His voice was flat and controlled. They left a threatening message for Chloe. Physical note on my front porch. Silence on the line. Then, how long ago? Sometime in the last 4 hours. I have cameras. They stayed off frame. Professional. Voss said it like a statement, not a question. Calloway has connections we haven't fully mapped yet. This is witness intimidation on top of everything else. Another pause. Nathan, I need you to hear me. This means she's scared. People who are winning don't do this. He looked at the drawing on the counter. She doesn't seem scared, he said. She's terrified, Voss said. She just needs you to believe otherwise. Don't. He installed a second camera facing the porch that night. He checked Chloe's window locks twice. Rex slept across the front door, And at 11:15, as Nathan finally sat down in the dark of the living room, with his phone in his hand and the note photographed and logged, Webb texted him 2 sentences that changed everything. 2 more families called today. Kids from Hale's class 3 and 4 years ago. Same story, same corner, same words. Nathan read it 3 times. Then a second text came in, 30 seconds later. There's a former Maplewood teacher. She filed an internal complaint against Hale 18 months ago. Marsh buried it. She's willing to talk. Nathan set the phone down on the cushion beside him. Rex came out of the hallway and put his head in Nathan's lap without being asked. She had been doing this for years, carefully, deliberately, targeting children who could not articulate what was being done to them. Children with disabilities, children from broken homes, children whose silence was easier to maintain than anyone wanted to admit. She had walked into a classroom every morning for 24 years, and she had been doing this, and the building had known it, and the institution had protected itself, and the children had carried it home and never found the words. Until one of them pressed a button. Nathan put his hand on Rex's head and looked at the ceiling of his dark living room, and thought about all the children who had not had a button to press. "We're going to find every single one of them," he said quietly. Rex did not move. "And then we're going to make sure she answers for all of it." The trial began on a Tuesday morning, 6 weeks after the arrest, and Maplewood had not been quiet once in the time between. 2 more families had come forward the week after Webb's text. Then a third. Then a teacher named Rachel Doan, who had left Maplewood Elementary 18 months ago and carried the weight of a buried complaint like a stone she had been waiting for someone to help her put down. She called Voss's office on a Thursday afternoon and talked for 2 hours without stopping. When she was done, Voss called Nathan. "We have 7 victims," Voss said. 2 whistleblowers. Physical evidence. The audio. A pause. "And I got the registration ruling this morning. The compass is admissible. The district's own intake form classified it as a medical monitoring device at enrollment. Callaway's suppression motion failed." Nathan sat with that for a moment. "She didn't know I filed that form," he said. "She had no way of knowing. You filed it 2 years ago when Chloe started kindergarten." Voss's voice carried something close to satisfaction. "She built her entire defense around that audio being thrown out. It's not getting thrown out." He looked across the living room at Chloe, who was drawing at the coffee table with Rex stretched out beside her, his chin on her knee. She was using color again. He had noticed it 3 days ago and had not said anything, afraid that naming it would make it stop. "We'll be there," he said. The courtroom was full from the first session. Nathan had expected attention. He had not expected the weight of it, the specific pressure of a packed room where half the people wanted one outcome and half wanted the other, and all of them were watching his daughter. Chloe sat beside him in the second row behind the prosecution table, her right hand in Rex's fur, her left arm resting in her lap. Judge Morrison had approved Rex's presence after 3 motions and the letter from Chloe's therapist. Nathan would have filed 30 more. Hale was already at the defense table when they arrived. She was wearing a gray blazer, and her hair was perfect, and she looked exactly like the photo on the school's website. Exactly like the woman who had 24 years of awards in a frame above her desk. She looked up when Nathan walked in. She smiled at him. Chloe saw it. Nathan felt her go rigid beside him. "Don't look at her," he said quietly. "Look at Rex." Chloe looked at Rex. Voss opened the prosecution's case with the kind of precision Nathan had come to expect from her. No theatrics, no performance, just evidence laid in front of 12 people with the patience of someone who trusted the truth to do its own work. She walked the jury through the pattern. 24 years, 7 children, the same corner in the same classroom, the same words spoken in the same quiet voice to children who had been specifically selected because their silence was the most dependable. She did not choose randomly, Voss told the jury. She chose children who stuttered, children with physical disabilities, children from homes already under stress. She chose them because she understood that the adults in their lives would have the hardest time believing them. And she was right. For years, she was right. Calloway's opening was confident and smooth, and built entirely on the idea that Nathan was the story, not Hale. A young officer, a broken home, a daughter with documented emotional difficulties, a man who needed someone to blame and had the badge to make the accusations stick. Ask yourself one question, Calloway told the jury. If Patricia Hale had truly been abusing children for 24 years, why did no one stop her sooner? He spread his hands. He let the silence do the work. Nathan's jaw tightened. Beside him, Chloe had gone very still. Because people were scared to, she whispered. Nathan looked at her. She was staring at the defense table with an expression that was not fear anymore. It was something older than fear. Something that had come through fear and out the other side. That's exactly right, he said. The first 2 days of testimony did what Voss had designed it to do. The school nurse, who had treated unexplained bruising on 3 of Hale's former students over 5 years, and been told each time to document it as accidental. The janitor, who had heard screaming from room 118 on 4 separate occasions, and been told by Principal Marsh to mind his own section of the building. Rachel Doan, who took the stand on the second afternoon and told the jury about the complaint she had filed, the meeting with Marsh, the specific phrase he had used. Be careful what you put in writing. She cried twice and stopped herself both times, visibly, deliberately. The way someone cries who has decided they are done being silent about something. Then the parents. Gwen Torres sat in the witness chair and talked about her son Marco, who had spent 6 months in Hale's class 2 years ago, and still woke up some nights calling out for someone to open the door. She talked about the morning he had finally told her, in the parking lot of a grocery store of all places, what happened in the corner of room 118. She talked about going to Marsh. She talked about Marsh's response, which had been to suggest that Marco might benefit from behavioral counseling. He said Marco had a tendency to dramatize, Gwen said. Her voice was flat and exact. That was the word he used. Dramatize. What did you do? Voss asked. I believed the principal over my own son. Gwen looked at her hands. I will spend the rest of my life being sorry for that. The courtroom was very quiet. Then Voss played the audio. 7 minutes. The full recording from the compass transmitter in room 118 on the morning Nathan had pulled over on Route 9 and listened to his daughter's silence being used as a weapon against her. Voss played it without commentary, without narration, without any setup beyond, "This is People's Exhibit 14, recorded on the device registered by Officer Cole at Maplewood Elementary's district office." Hale's voice filled the courtroom. Quiet, deliberate, precise in the way a blade is precise. Nathan watched the jury. 3 of them stopped writing. One woman in the back row pressed her hand flat against the jury box railing. The foreman, a man in his 60s, who had kept his expression neutral through 2 days of testimony, looked at the defense table for the first time with something that was not neutral at all. Then Chloe's voice came through the speaker. Daddy. One word, barely audible. The word that had come out of her in room 118 when all the holding back had finally cost more than she had. Someone in the gallery made a sound and caught themselves. Calloway was on his feet before the recording finished. "Objection, Your Honor. The jury has not been provided context for the emotional state of the child at the time of—" "Overruled." Judge Morrison's voice did not change pitch. "Sit down, Mr. Calloway." He sat down. The recording ended. The courtroom stayed quiet for 3 seconds longer than it needed to. Voss said nothing. She let those 3 seconds exist. Then she called her next witness. Hale took the stand on the 3rd day. She had clearly prepared for it. Every answer was measured, every pause was placed. Every expression was calibrated to the specific frequency of wronged dignity. She spoke about her career with the reverence of someone eulogizing something precious. She wept at the right moments. She composed herself at the right moments. She was, Nathan thought, watching her from the 2nd row, the best performance he had ever seen from someone who was not performing well enough. Because the jury had heard the recording, and the recording had a voice in it that could not be calibrated or prepared or performed. It had his daughter's voice, saying one word in a room where she was not supposed to speak at all. Calloway walked Hale through her version for 90 minutes. Voss cross-examined her for 45. She did not raise her voice. She did not accuse. She laid the evidence in front of Hale the way you lay cards on a table, one at a time, and asked the same question in 7 different forms. "Can you explain this?" The 7th time she asked it, she was holding a drawing made by a child named Maya Ruiz, now 9 years old, who had been in Hale's class 3 years ago. The drawing had been produced in a therapeutic setting and showed a tall figure with silver hair standing over a small girl in a corner. Maya had labeled the figure in the careful printing of a 6-year-old. She had used the same words Chloe had used, the same words Gwen Torres' son had used, the same words that 3 other children, separately, in separate homes, with separate therapists, had used. Hale looked at the drawing for a long moment. "Children have vivid imaginations," she said. 7 children, Voss said. "All with the same imagination. All in your classroom. All drawing the same figure using the same words." She set the drawing down. "Ms. Hale, is it your position that 7 separate children who have never met each other, who were treated by different therapists in different settings, all independently invented the same experience and the same words to describe it?" Hale opened her mouth, closed it. Something moved behind her eyes, fast and cold, there and gone, but there long enough for the jury to see it. Not grief, not confusion. The thing underneath both of those, the thing that had been running the performance the entire time, and had just, for 1 second, shown its face. "I don't know what to tell you," she said. "I think you do," Voss said. No further questions. The jury deliberated for 4 hours and 11 minutes. Nathan sat in the hallway with Chloe against his left side and Rex across both their feet. Webb paced the length of the corridor 6 times before Nathan told him to stop. Other families clustered at the far end, speaking in low voices, holding each other by the hand. Gwen Torres caught Nathan's eye once across the hallway and held it for a moment. He nodded. She nodded back. Chloe was drawing on a folded piece of paper she had pulled from his jacket pocket. He did not look at what she was drawing. He just watched her hand move. "Daddy?" she said, without looking up. "Yeah?" "If they say she didn't do it," a pause, "what happens?" "We keep fighting." "How?" "However we have to." He put his arm around her. "But I don't think that's what they're going to say." She kept drawing. The courtroom doors opened at 4:47 in the afternoon, and someone called them back in. Judge Morrison looked at the jury. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" The foreman stood. He was the man in his 60s who had stopped being neutral on the 3rd day. He held the paper in both hands and looked at it once before he spoke. On the count of child abuse in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. Hale's attorney put his hand on her arm. On the count of assault on a minor, we find the defendant guilty. Someone in the gallery exhaled. On the count of witness tampering and conspiracy to intimidate, we find the defendant guilty. The courtroom came apart. Not loud, not chaotic, just the sound of people releasing something they had been holding for a very long time. Crying that had been waiting. Hands reaching for other hands. Gwen Torres made a sound across the room that Nathan would not forget. He did not hear any of it clearly. He was looking at Chloe. She had stopped drawing. She was sitting very straight, her right hand in Rex's fur, her left arm resting in her lap, her dark eyes fixed on the front of the courtroom, where Patricia Hale was being asked to rise. Hale stood. Her posture was still straight. Her chin was still level. But the calculation was gone from her eyes. What was left was something smaller and colder and, Nathan realized, genuinely afraid. "Daddy," Chloe said. "Yeah, baby." "She's scared now." He looked at his daughter, 7 years old, brace on her left arm, Rex's fur under her right hand, a folded piece of paper on the seat beside her, with a drawing she had been making while she waited to find out whether the world was going to believe her. "She is," he said. Chloe looked at Hale one more time. Then she looked away, deliberately, like setting something down that had been too heavy for too long. "Okay," she said. "Then I don't need to look at her anymore." Nathan pulled her close and held her while the bailiff led Patricia Hale out of the courtroom. And Rex pressed against them both, and the room kept releasing everything it had been holding. And for the first time in months, in the middle of all of it, he felt something that was not rage, and not fear, and not grief. He felt still. Sentencing came 6 weeks after the verdict, and Patricia Hale stood before Judge Morrison in the same gray blazer she had worn to trial. But she did not look the same. The posture was still there, the chin still level, but something behind her eyes had gone out. Nathan recognized it. He had seen it before, in people who had spent years believing the rules did not fully apply to them and had finally, completely, run out of room. Judge Morrison looked at her for a long moment before she spoke. "Ms. Hale, this court has reviewed 7 victim impact statements, 2 decades of documented complaints that were systematically suppressed, and a pattern of deliberate predatory behavior targeting children specifically chosen for their vulnerability." A pause. "You did not make mistakes. You made choices. Every single day, for years, you made choices. And the children in your classroom paid for them." Hale's attorney put his hand on her arm. 14 years, state correctional facility. Lifetime prohibition from employment in any capacity involving minors. Mandatory registration as a convicted child abuser. Morrison set down the file. "This court is done." The bailiff moved toward Hale, and she stood very still and let it happen. No performance this time. No tissue. No tremor in the voice. She was handcuffed in front of a courtroom that had been full of her supporters 6 weeks ago, and was significantly quieter today. And she did not look at Nathan, did not look at any of the families, did not look at anyone except the floor in front of her feet as they led her out. Nathan watched her go. He waited for something. Satisfaction. Relief. The specific release he had imagined during the nights he had sat in the dark with Rex at his feet, and the threatening notes photographed on his phone. It did not come the way he expected. What came instead was quieter than that. A loosening. Like something that had been pulled tight for so long, he had forgotten what his chest felt like without the tension. Chloe was sitting beside him. She had not come to the sentencing hearing alone in her feelings about it. The night before, She had asked him what would happen, and he had told her, as plainly as he knew how, and she had listened with that careful, serious expression she wore when she was filing something away permanently. "Will I have to see her?" she had asked. "No." "Ever?" "Not if I have anything to say about it." She had nodded. Then, "Daddy, do you think she was always like that? Or did she become like that?" He had not had a good answer for that. He had said he didn't know, which was the truth, and she had accepted it the way she accepted most hard truths, without drama, with the particular steadiness of a child who had already learned that some questions don't resolve cleanly. Now she was watching the door through which Hale had just been led, and her expression was not triumphant, and it was not sad. It was something Nathan could only describe as finished, like a page turned. "Okay," she said quietly, to herself mostly. "Okay." Webb found them in the hallway afterward and pulled Nathan into a handshake that became something closer to an embrace, the way it does between men who have been through something together that they will not fully talk about for years. "It's done, brother," Webb said. "Most of it." "Most of it," Webb agreed, because they both knew what most of it meant. Marsh had resigned from Maplewood Elementary the week after the verdict, a letter full of carefully worded regret that said nothing real. 3 school board members were still under investigation for their role in suppressing complaints. Calloway was already rumored to be pursuing an appeal. The system that had protected Hale for 24 years was not going to examine itself quickly or willingly. But Hale was going to prison, and the 7 children whose families had finally been believed were going home tonight to something that felt different than it had felt yesterday. That was not nothing. Gwen Torres caught Nathan on the courthouse steps. Marco was beside her, 8 years old, hands in his jacket pockets, watching everything with the serious eyes of a child who had been carrying something heavy and was only beginning to understand he could set it down. "Thank you," Gwen said. It came out rough, the way words do when they have been waiting behind something for a long time. "For not letting it stay buried. For my son." "You came forward," Nathan said. "That took courage." "It took your daughter." She glanced at Chloe, who was standing a few feet away with Rex pressed against her left side. "Tell her from us. Tell her we know what she did." Chloe had heard. She was looking at Marco with the expression she wore when she was deciding something. "Hi," she said. Marco looked at her. "Hi." A beat. "I heard about the button," he said. "Yeah. That was smart, that you pressed it." Chloe looked down at Rex for a second. "I was really scared." "I know." Marco said it like he meant it exactly. Like he knew precisely what scared in that classroom felt like, because he had felt it himself. "I was too. I just didn't have anything to press." Something moved across Chloe's face. A recognition so direct and complete, it did not need words. She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out the orange compass, the one Nathan had fastened to her backpack zipper the morning everything changed. The one she had unclipped 2 weeks after the trial and kept in her pocket like a stone worn smooth. She held it out to Marco. "You can have it," she said. "You don't need it anymore, but maybe just to keep, so you remember that someone came." Marco looked at it. He looked at his mother. He looked back at Chloe. He took it. Nathan had to look away for a moment. 3 months passed. The appeal Calloway filed was denied in early spring on the grounds that the audio evidence had been properly admitted and the trial had been conducted without procedural error. Marsh's resignation was made permanent. The school board opened a formal review of complaint suppression practices dating back 15 years. None of it moved fast. None of it would. But it moved. Chloe started a program called the Halo Project, run out of a community building across town by a former teacher named Carolyn Mast, who had followed the trial and reached out to Nathan in a letter that was 2 pages long, and apologized for things she had not done, which Nathan understood, because guilt does not require direct participation. It only requires knowing something was wrong and staying quiet. The program was art, drawing, painting, building things with hands that needed somewhere to put what words could not hold. Nathan drove Chloe there on Saturday mornings and waited in the hallway with Rex and a cup of coffee that went cold while he listened to the sounds coming through the door. Children's voices, laughter that started uncertain and grew easier. The specific sound of someone making something out of nothing. One Saturday, 6 weeks in, Chloe came out of the session carrying a large canvas against her chest. She waited until they were in the car to show him. It was their house. She had painted it in the way she painted everything now. Big and unafraid, and full of the colors she had stopped using for almost a year. Blue roof, yellow light in the windows. In front of the house, 3 figures. A tall man in a navy uniform, a German shepherd with amber eyes, and a small girl with a brace on her left arm and a paintbrush in her right hand. And in the sky above the house, barely visible in the clouds, the outline of a woman. Soft, present, watching. Above it all, in letters that were large and imperfect and entirely her own. We are not broken. We are just beginning. Nathan looked at it for a long time. "That's us," he said. "Yeah." She held it carefully in both hands, the right gripping the edge, the left braced against the canvas with the arm that a woman had once called ugly and damaged, and proof that no one could love her easily. "And that's Mama, up there." He had not talked to Dana since she left. He did not know where she was. He did not know if she followed the trial, or read the news, or knew what her daughter had walked through and come out of. There were nights in the early months when that unknowing had been its own kind of wound. But looking at the painting, at the figure Chloe had placed in the clouds by choice, because she wanted her mother in the sky above their home, and not absent from it entirely, Nathan understood something he had not been ready to understand before. Chloe was not waiting for Dana to come back. She had put her somewhere safe, somewhere she could not leave again. And she had built the rest of the picture around the 3 of them who had stayed. "It's beautiful, Turtle," he said. "I made it for the hallway, where the other pictures used to be." He nodded. "Then that's where it goes." She leaned back in the seat, with the canvas in her lap and Rex's head resting on her knee, and looked out the window at Maplewood moving past. The streets thawing now, the last of the winter gray giving way to the specific pale green of early Ohio spring. "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "Do you think she knows? Mama? Do you think she saw what happened, and she knows I was okay?" He thought about that for a moment. Not the easy answer, the real one. "I think," he said, "that wherever she is, she knows you pressed that button. And I think she's proud of you, in a way she doesn't even have words for." Chloe was quiet for a moment. Then, "I'm proud of me too." He looked at her. She said it simply, without performance, without the careful self-monitoring of a child who had spent months being told she was too much and not enough at the same time. She said it the way you say something when you have decided it is true, and you are not interested in arguing about it. "Good," Nathan said. "You should be." Rex licked her hand. She laughed. It was the laugh he had been waiting for. Not the polite one, not the careful one. The real one. The one that came from somewhere deep and unguarded. The one that filled the car completely and left no room for anything else. The showcase at the Halo Project came at the end of spring. Carolyn had invited families, community members, other teachers, And Nathan stood at the back of the room in his uniform, straight from a shift, Rex beside him on lead, and watched his daughter walk to the center of the small stage, carrying a canvas. She stood in front of a room full of strangers and did not look at him for permission. She just stood there and waited for the room to settle, the way someone stands who has decided they belong in the space they are standing in. Then she spoke. "My name is Chloe Cole. I'm 7. I have cerebral palsy, which means my left arm and leg work differently than most people's." No apology in her voice, no preface, just information. A teacher told me that made me broken. She told me nobody would believe me if I said what she was doing. She told me my mother left because of me. The room was absolutely still. She was wrong about all of it. She turned the canvas around. A gasp moved through the audience. Carolyn, standing to the left of the stage, pressed her hand to her mouth. "This is my family," Chloe said. "My daddy is my strength. Rex is my protector." She touched the clouds at the top of the canvas. "And my mama is my sky. She's always above me." She looked up from the painting and directly at the room. "I used to think being different meant being less. I know now it just means I see things other people miss. And I'm glad I see them." She stepped back. The room came to its feet. Nathan did not move. He stood at the back with Rex beside him, and tears moving down his face that he did not wipe away. Because there was no reason to. Because there was no one in this room he needed to perform steadiness for anymore. He was just a father, watching his daughter stand in a room full of people who were on their feet for her, and he let himself feel every single second of it. Chloe found him afterward in the crowd. She pushed through people who were trying to talk to her, touched shoulders and said polite things, and kept moving, until she reached him and wrapped both arms around his waist and held on. "Did I do okay?" she asked against his uniform. He put his arms around her. "You were perfect." "Rex thinks so too. He's wagging." "Rex has excellent taste," she laughed. The real one again. He was collecting them now, every instance, the way you collect something you nearly lost. That night, he sat on the porch after she was asleep, Rex at his feet, the spring air moving through the yard, the first stars of the season appearing through breaking clouds. He looked up at them for a long time. "She stood up in front of a room today," he said quietly. "To the sky, to whoever was listening. She told them who she was. All of it, out loud, without flinching." He stopped. "You would have been so proud." The wind moved through the yard. He chose to believe it was an answer. Inside, Chloe was sleeping with the orange compass on her nightstand, and Rex across the foot of her bed, and a painting on the wall that said they were not broken, that they were just beginning. And every word of it was true. She had pressed a button when she could not speak. She had told the truth when the truth was the most dangerous thing she owned. She had stood in a corner in room 118 and said her father's name out loud and trusted that it would reach him. And it had. And he had come, and the rest had followed from that single act of courage in the hands of a 7-year-old girl who had been told she was nothing. She was everything. She always had been. And from that morning forward, in whatever room she walked into, whatever corner she was pointed toward, whatever voice told her she was less than she was, Chloe Cole would know one thing with the certainty of lived experience. When she reached out, someone answered. When she spoke, someone listened. When she needed to be found, she was found. That is not a small thing to know. That is the whole thing. If this story reached something in you today, press the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Write Amen in the comments if you believe every child deserves to be believed, to be protected, and to know that when they cry out in the dark, someone will always come. Tell me your city. I want to see how far this story travels. God bless every child who was told they were broken. God bless every parent who showed up anyway. And God bless every soul who chose to press the button when it mattered most.